broadcasting from an undisclosed location, from a secret hunting spot known only to him, and the guy who told him about it, and possibly the guy who told him. It's a show all about hunting in New Zealand and around the globe. This is The Hunting Show. Find The Hunting Show on Facebook and Twitter for up-to-date information on upcoming shows and topics.
That's right, it's another episode of The Hunting Show. I'm your host, Stephen Spargo, and we're coming to you from, well, kind of the middle of nowhere. We're somewhere in between the Kaimanawas and the National Park, and that's about all I'm going to let you know. And I've got my friend Carl here, and Carl's just getting into hunting. How are you, Carl?
Good. Very good.
Kicking along. Very good, but slightly disappointed maybe. This is the second time we've been out hunting, and we haven't got far. On the phone, I have Jamie Fairbairn from Sika Hunters NZ. How are you, Jamie?
I'm good, mate. I'm good.
Now, why I've got you on the phone is that we've just come back from a Sika hunt, and this isn't my area of expertise. As you know, Jamie, I generally thrash around and try and get onto the reds. And we saw plenty of sign, but we really didn't quite get there, you know. So have you got some advice for us?
Well, you know, it's obviously a bit hard not being there and seeing what you're exactly doing, but if you're seeing sign, it's a good thing. And what sort of country have you been sort of looking at?
Well, we've been in areas where there's been a bit of, well, we've been glassing down onto some grass areas, really. So we've been up above. There's a river close by. We've made sure the wind was in our face. And like I said, plenty of sign. Even some of it was warm. And we really haven't had a successful hunt. What would you say was unique about Sika hunting? What should we be doing that maybe, you know, with the reds or with other species we're just not getting it?
Maybe just concentrate your time on the areas where you are finding sign. And I mean by a lot of sign, not just one set of prints going one way, because that could be, depending on the weather, what the rain's done, you know, a few days old. If you're glassing down onto open edges and stuff, you're best at first light, last light. But there's always the exception to the rule where you're just going to stumble into one in the middle of the day. But open areas, because it gets probably a bit of pressure and they're just accustomed to it, first light, last light, for an hour or so. And otherwise, try and find some nice creek areas this time of year. Something out of the wind. If you're in the wind and you're not liking it, they're probably not going to like it also. So that's what I'll probably be doing.
Now, Carl, this is your second go at hunting, and you've come back without anything. What do you think? What's going through your mind right now?
Just happy to be out here. Really, it's I'm not unimpressed with not taking anything home. Yeah. Of course, I'd like to take something home, but no, it's good.
And Jamie, have you got any advice for someone who's a very new hunter? I mean, it's easy for me because I'm not, my freezer's relatively full, and I'm not. I'm out here trying to learn a new arm to my craft. But for Carl here, this is kind of the first go. What can you say to him?
I guess you could put it to like a building apprenticeship. You're not going to walk out and build a house every time until you're experienced at it. So it just takes time to build these things. Aim for you as a young guy, you always want to go out and shoot a deer, and it's not going to happen every time. So it's about building skills to eventually, hopefully, go out and shoot a deer every second time, or get to the point where you can say, "There's a deer, I'm going to shoot it," or "You're not going to shoot it." But it's just taking in all the info you can and storing it, and just remembering it, taking in the other guy's views, because one person's views is not always the gospel. So
right.
Just be open to different things.
And I've been trying to teach Carl what I consider to be good habits, and I know what you might consider to be good habits and what I do might be slightly different. But can you tell Carl a little bit or a couple of those really good habits?
Go fairly slow in areas that have a lot of signs. But in saying that, though, you never know when you're going to come across one. So being quiet helps you hear, and it helps the deer not hear you. Hand movement to a minimum, whisper all the time, right until you get back to the truck. It's just a good habit to get into. The time you slip up is the time you're going to, scare the deer off. Don't stand in the sun, stand in the shade. You always see a deer standing in the sun, so you silhouette the same way. There's lots and lots of stuff I could go through, but keeping quiet is the main one, and just making sure that you're being onto it with what you're doing, and don't muck around, because the time you muck around is when you're going to miss out.
I like what you said then about standing in the shade, because for me quite often that comes naturally because I'm really fair-skinned and I don't like the sun, but also I know that it's a good habit, but it's not something I've read or heard about. I think it just, for some people, comes naturally. Do you think it makes that big a difference?
It can do. It can't hurt though. You know, like if you're gonna stand somewhere and look at a face, lean against a tree so your silhouette doesn't stand out. The amount of times I've been standing there looking across at something and a deer's walked out, well, you don't have time to move next to that tree. Usually they'll see you. You know, or if you're standing in the sunlight, there's obviously shade around it being in the bush. So just try and stand there, because as soon as you're looking at a face and something walks through sunlight, you see it a lot easier than something walking in the shade. So that's what the deer will see also. So just something I've been taught by my uncles years ago, and just applied it and keep going in it. You know, if I stop doing it, maybe I'll start seeing less deer, but I'm not willing to try.
What do you think? I've always been very, very firm on that, keeping the wind in your face. How true is that? Is it a firm, hard rule, or what?
It's a pretty firm, hard rule, yeah. But I'm saying that, but if I'm hunting down a ridge and the wind's coming at me, you know, on a 45 degrees or even on my right-hand shoulder, I'll still hunt that way as long as I'm not hunting with the wind, because obviously any wind in front of you, you know, like I say, there's always the exceptions to the rule. You come across a silly one, but smell is a big sense for them, and that little bit of smell blows up big time. It can go for hundreds of metres for them to sense. So I wouldn't go with the wind, but I wouldn't say it has to be straight in your face. It can be on quite a good angle to you, as long as you're not, you know. So anything in front of you that you see can't be catching your scent, and that's a big help.
Now, Carl, while we've been out today, you've seen some really good sign, and there was plenty of it. And we did see a little bit of movement today. When I spotted that movement, did you think anything? Did you think we might have seen something?
I don't know. I thought I saw some movement after that, not long after that, but I don't know. Looked at it for a while and there was no more movement. So
yeah, and it's about getting into that really good habit of not shooting at movement first of all, and not getting stag mad, or you know, making sure that you're not going out there determined to get a kill and then going away obviously and making a terrible mistake.
I'm definitely not coming out here expecting to see anything or shoot anything for a while, to be honest. I'm not, definitely not thinking I'm going to get something in a week or so.
And Jamie, that's probably quite a good attitude to take, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Go out there and you try not to put too much pressure on yourself. Times when I walk out the door and I've just got a camera in my hand and not worrying about too much and taking photos or whatever comes across, I feel like I'm just a bit more relaxed and with what comes in front of me. If I'm out there after that big stag, I'm a bit more tensed up, and you're making yourself, you know, feel like you've got a bit of pressure on, which obviously isn't nice, but just cruise with it. They're going to come. It'll come as long as you do it wisely and don't muck around, and the more you get out there, the more you're going to learn and remember it quickly. It's like when I go in the bush for quite a few weeks during the raw, I'm a lot sharper than going every 2 weeks, you know, because you spend time on it, and it's just like anything. It's more time, the better you're going to get. It's
a little bit like golf, eh? If you play golf once a year, you'll never be good at it, eh?
That's exactly it. Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, practice makes perfect.
Yeah, and I'm evidence with the golf thing. I'm a terrible golf player, and I do it about once a year. I think for me is actually probably where the pressure's coming from. So I'm trying to get Carl here into a little bit of hunting, and I really want to take him out and get him that first kill and get it under his belt so he feels like he's achieved something. Have you been in that position, Jamie?
Oh, plenty of times, and you know, whenever you take someone, especially someone new or somebody you don't really know that well, there's always the pressure there, and I feel it, and I've done it, you know, lots and lots of times, but they've just got to realise that you're not going to see one every time, and I always say to them, hey, we're going out for a walk, we're going to walk through the bush, have a good time. If we see a deer, bonus. If we manage to shoot a deer, well, even better, but don't put the pressure on yourself, and don't feel like you should be pressured into it, because at the end of it, it's another day that you're out there, taking time out of your own time, and you just got to go as a team and say, hey, we're going to try and get a deer. If we don't, well, there's another time. It's not the end of the world. Just putting pressure on yourself and putting pressure on other people to try and find a deer can get a little bit dodgy too, you know. Those guys that don't have a freezer full and mumsies in the air saying, you know, don't come back without any meat. Yeah, it does raise questions sometimes about, you know, what pressure can do to people.
We were just having a yak before we started recording the show, and one of Carl's things, actually I'll let Carl explain it, because he was even thinking, because he thinks in the future he'll probably end up going hunting with me most of the time, maybe it wasn't worth him getting his firearms license. Can you explain what you were saying, Carl?
Well, I just know you've got a lot more years experience on me, and if I see something, I'd rather you shoot it and actually get it than me shoot it, maim it, it's gone. Yeah, I don't know, I'm not too stressed, to be honest, about doing it.
And the interesting thing for me, I was quite the opposite and said if we saw something, I'd be probably keener for you to have a go at it. What do you reckon, Jamie?
I reckon it's a good way to be, Steve. You've kind of got a good mate there that he's not excited, he's a bit more relaxed, he's not going to make a lot of noise. If he does see a deer, he'll just go, look Steve, there's one there. And but the thing is, if you take your rifle out and make sure you're shooting well, you're going to be more confident about it. And in the end of it, you've obviously gone hunting because you want to get a deer, and you've got to get one up under your belt. And the best way to do it is by yourself eventually. So, one set of footprints is a lot quieter than two. So I'd definitely build on it, go out with Steve and get a few deer and work out how to cut them up, and then, eventually start going on your own, and you'll be a lot more successful just going by yourself.
Yeah, but I suppose for me, and I've done quite a bit of hunting by myself, but I've got to the point now where hunting for me, and listeners will roll their eyes because I say this almost every episode, is not just about the meat, it's where you are and who you're with. And you're right, hunting alone can be more successful, but something about sharing that with someone else is really special to me. I find the same thing. Like during the war, I like to be with someone, quite often someone that's less experienced and hasn't shot many deer, and quite often they'll get to shoot the stag because I either don't want it or they haven't shot one, so it doesn't matter what it is, they'll get to shoot it. But, those sort of things, those experiences, you can't put a price on those. But also there is times when you want to go out and go south, and doing it by yourself, especially when you get a bit older, you kind of like that little bit of solitude by yourself for the day, get back to camp, your mates there, a few beers, you still got the friendship there. But sometimes during the day, when it counts, during the raw, you want to get that good head by yourself, is that little bit more quieter. But also, if there's two of you and you're sitting down, there's two sets of eyes also, so it can work both ways. And this is something that I wanted to try and talk to Carl about, and I want your opinion on it before I voice mine. But how long do you sit there glassing an area without having any luck before you move on to another area?
Oh, well, how long is a piece of string? It depends on your patience. Me, personally, I can't sit for very long, so it has to be a clearing I've seen deer on before, or I would have gone down there and scanned the clearing, grid searched it to see where they're coming onto the clearing, possibly, and, just checking out whether it's actually worthy of sitting down, and how long at time, or what time of year the feed's going to be on there, but I tend to sit if it's a good clearing up to 3/4 of an hour max, but I wouldn't do that all the time. I'll sit there for 10, 15 regularly. Just depends on the time of year or how big a clearing it is. If you can cover a lot of area, well then let your binos do the walking.
Yeah, well, we sat there glassing this area for probably 20 minutes today, and I didn't feel like it was enough. What did you think, Carl?
I'm normally pretty impatient, but I was
you're a real impatient cat, eh?
But no, I was quite happy. I was actually surprised that you got up and moved off when you did. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I went and crossed the river and got very wet to have a look at the clearing because we were across the river from the clearing. Is that a good strategy?
Looking across and spending any amount of time, if you're still in something new, you're going to see it quicker. But going across and checking out a clearing, as long as you're not going back to the afternoon or the next day or so, people say it'll bugger it up for a week, but, I've had deer walk out the same afternoon as I've walked out in the clearing in the morning. It just depends on the deer and the situation. I wouldn't worry too much about it, but definitely going across, checking it out if you haven't been there before, and walking around the bush edge to see where they're coming out, where the access points are. Have a look at it, see if there's one, if they're entering one end and exiting the other by the hoof prints and just all that sort of stuff. And you never know, you might find an odd cast out on it.
And what do you think about, is there something unique, and again, this is my inexperience here, but is there something that's unique about hunting Sika in that respect? Are they more wily than reds? I think seem to be finding that.
Yeah, they are a little bit more wily than reds, but again, they are just deer, they all do the same sort of thing. They seek the food that grows nicely, the nice tasting food. They'll go into the bush in the areas that have got the better food and the trees that accompany that. You know, in the end of it, they are just a deer, so you got to think of them like that. But they are Sika also, which are a little bit more clued up. Don't hang around to see what that noise was, unless it's a little dumb spike or stag during the roar, you know. But you know, just treat them as a deer, and if you can hunt Sika, you can hunt most deer. So you're doing the right thing and heading down the right track, I think.
So Jamie, we're going to have to go out on a hunt together very soon. I know we've been talking about it, and it's going to happen, and we're going to record a show afterwards or before, or you know, a couple. I do look forward to that, and I hope we can catch up soon. Thank you so much for taking your time out tonight, and I texted you out of the blue, I know, so you didn't have any time to prep up, but thank you very much for again appearing on our show or coming to us by phone.
No worries, boys, and good luck, and hopefully tomorrow turns out a bit better. I think you're going to get a bit of rain, which will be good, so as long as it's not blowing tips off, I think you'll be fine. Hunting in the rain just means you get wet, doesn't mean much else.
Yeah, thanks, Jamie.
Okay, mate, cheers, catch you later.
So that was Jamie Fairbairn from Sika Hunters NZ. Please feel free to catch up with him. Go on to their Facebook page. There's plenty of good photos there. And just before we go, I'll just have a quick chat to Carl. Carl, one of the big motivations for you coming out and learning to hunt is that you've got children and you'd like to get them away from your PlayStation and out into where we are now, which is absolutely stunning. Again, I can't tell you where we are. If you really want to know, send me an email. I might let you know. But we're in an absolute stunning valley. There's a beautiful river here, and there's so many New Zealand children, or there's children from all over the world that just don't get to see this.
There's actually a lot of reasons to be here. Yes, my kids is a big one. I wasn't brought up by fishermen, hunters, anything really other than people who went to work and went home at the end of the night. So it's always been a thing for me to get out here and learn it. I am man, hear me roar. Nothing more manly than bringing home the meat, eh? So I'd love to learn that and then pass it on to my kids. And I've always loved the outdoors, so that just comes hand in hand with it.
And what does your wife think? Because I'm very lucky. My wife grew up around hunters. Her brother hunts, her father hunts, and it's just kind of in her blood. And she'll often come with me hunting. She's not a hunter herself, but she'll trail behind and be, enjoy being out in the wilderness. But not all wives, and for that matter, partners of those women out there, because there's lots of women hunters in New Zealand that don't hunt. What does she think of that?
Not impressed. Not impressed in pretty much every way. 5 years ago, I would have said I wouldn't be here right now. She was pretty staunch on it, but she's loosened the reins a little.
And how does she feel about you coming out hunting with me of all people?
She trusts you a lot. She knows you and she trusts you a lot. There was a point today where I was sort of thinking, this is a bit dodgy. I don't know where Steve is, and here I am walking through some bush. But I know you, and I feel pretty safe with that. So. And she does too.
That's a really interesting point. I went hunting with, there was three of us that went in the bush, and I didn't know the third party. He was a sort of a friend of a friend, and we ended up in the valley, or in another part on the Napier-Taupo Road for quite a few days. And an interesting thing was my other friend, every time that he passed this guy his gun, who was a license, said, "Don't shoot me," And I just remember thinking, I'm never going hunting with this guy again. There's something about this that didn't feel right. And look, he's probably fine. But it is important that you trust who you're with, isn't it?
Definitely. I feel very safe out here with you.
Well, I hope I don't let you down anytime soon. Look, we're coming to you from one of the most beautiful spots in the country, or one of many, many, many beautiful spots in the country. Probably not one of the most. It's just kind of another jewel in the crown that is New Zealand. And I know there's lots of listeners overseas that are probably feeling really dodgy. If you look into the picture box of this podcast, you'll see some photos of where we were. They're not fantastic photos. We're not photographers. But they will give you a sense of where we are and the sort of environment that we have. So go through and have a look. Carl, thank you very much. I know you're a little bit nervous about doing this interview, and it's time to go. It is getting dark and it's about to rain, so we'll get back in the truck and head back to our homes. And you're on the way. Carl lives in Turangi, which is about 40 minutes south of Taupo, so I've got another 40 minutes to go after that. Thank you very much.
See you later.
And remember, if you'd like to win that great prize by NZ Outdoor Magazine, all you've got to do is comment, share, like, be involved with us. And that means you can do that by email if you're not into Facebook, and many of you have told me that you're not. All you've got to do is email us, and you're still in the draw to win that. You can also be active. It's all about being active and interacting with us. This show was always about ease of contact, and almost all of you, and I try very hard to make sure I contact back any of you, but any of you that have been in contact with us will hopefully have a good experience and know that I do read all your emails, even the ones I don't reply to. We do get quite a few, and I probably reply to 95% of them, except for those awful ones that start with Ask John Key. Generally, if anyone starts an email with Ask John Key, they don't know me very well and know that I'm probably not going to ask that man anything. In fact, I don't even have his number, and I'm fairly certain he doesn't have mine. Thank you very much for listening. Have a very Merry Christmas if you don't tune in. There will be one more episode, hopefully before Christmas, and we're going to do some giveaways for that as well. Again, behave, be careful, good hunting.
Broadcasting from an undisclosed location, from a secret hunting spot known only to him, and the guy who told him about it, and possibly the guy who told him. It's a show all about hunting in New Zealand and around the globe. This is The Hunting Show. Find The Hunting Show on Facebook and Twitter for up-to-date information on upcoming shows and topics.